Welcome back to a new session of Code Study. In the past few sessions, I have shown you how you could set up your n8n instances locally. So I've shown you how you could do it via Docker desktop, how you could do it using Docker Compose or npm. And then I showed you how you could expose your n8n instances to the internet. But there was a problem with that. Essentially, it was not secure. So what we will be seeing in this session today essentially is how you can securely expose your n8n instances. And for that, we'll be creating a customized domain. We will be doing our best to find a reasonably priced domain. So we'll be using TLD-List to compare the prices of all top level domains. Then we will probably use something like Spaceship. You could use any registrar for that being. So we would be using Spaceship as a registrar. And then we would be transferring the DNS records we created in Spaceship to Cloudflare, which is where we will be exposing a tunnel, a secure tunnel via HTTPS to connect to our local n8n instances. And by the way, all my previous sessions will be linked in the description of this video below. So do check those out. Now, without much ado, let's get rolling. Before we move on, let's have a quick recap on what exactly was the problem last time around when we exposed our n8n instances to the internet. So if you have been following my sessions, you will remember that I used ngrok tunnels, or I used n8n, the inbuilt capability within n8n, to expose my n8n instances to the outside world or to the internet. Now the problem with that is it is not at all secure. So it is exposed via HTTP, which essentially means that if anyone has access to that URL that you're using, that dynamic URL that has been either generated by ngrok or your n8n, or using the capabilities of your n8n instances, they would have access to your instance, and it's totally unencrypted. So not a good way of doing things, right? What we'll be trying to solve today is this particular issue. Let us understand how exactly Cloudflare works and how it would help us address this issue of unencrypted sessions. What we would be doing is we would be configuring a domain name in Cloudflare. So it would have a layer 7 proxy, which I will explain what is layer 7 in a minute there. And what that would essentially do is it would act as a proxy server, right? So when you have an external app, an app in the internet that wants to communicate to one of your local apps, and by local app I mean an app that is within your local system, that's hosted within your computer, your laptop, right? If this external apps wants to communicate to your local app, it would do through this Cloudflare proxy where you have configured your domain name. So what that would essentially do is it would open up a tunnel which would tunnel into your system, right? So your firewall would know that this is a accepted pathway through which communications can happen. And how it would know that it is accepted is via a Cloudflare tunnel service agent which you would be installing in your local system. And this is how the whole communication would work, and it would be secure. It would be through HTTPS. Now don't worry too much about the theory. I just wanted to put it out there for anyone who's interested. So let us get into the practicals. Now a tiny bit more on the open systems interconnection model, or more commonly known as the OSI model. Cloudflare operates on application layer 7, which supports HTTP, HTTPS, and SMTP protocols. Other commonly known layers are the transport layer, which is layer 7, which supports TCP, TLS, and UDP. And you also have the network layer, layer 3, which supports IP protocol. There are other layers, but essentially these are the three major or most common layers that are widely used essentially. So the first and foremost step is start your n8n instance locally. So it's up to you on how you want to start it locally. And if you do not know how to do this, right, just refer to one of my previous sessions, which I've linked in the description below. So I am using npm. You could use Docker Compose or Docker Desktop, it doesn't matter. So I'll just start this session with some environment variables. And you can see that our n8n instance is now available on localhost 5678. I just need to press O to open this in the browser. As you can see, my local n8n instance is now up and running on port 5678, and this is my dashboard. So make sure you have your local instance up and running before you move on to the next step. For the second step, go to cloudflare.com. And once you enter that in your browser, once you enter this URL, you should land into this page right here. And here, if you do not have a login account, just click on Start for Free. This should give you a couple or more options through which you can log in. So you can log in with your Google account, you can continue with Apple, or if you have a GitHub account, you could do that. Or alternatively, you could create your own password using your email. So it's up to you. So just create that login, and I'll pause the video here, and after I log in, I'll press you. After logging in, go to your account homepage, and this is where you will see the list of all your configured domains owned by you. As you see, I already have a domain registered and configured, but this is not the one we'll be using, so we'll be setting up a brand new one just for you. Now I'll show you a couple of ways in which you could do it. So you could either use Cloudflare itself as a registrar. You could buy the domain from Cloudflare, and which makes setting it up a lot more easier because you do not have to transfer any DNS records or do anything like that. Quite straightforward. And the second method I'll show you is where you can buy the domain from another registrar. So I'll be searching through various domain names to find which registrar offers the cheapest one, and it probably is going to be Spaceship. But you could choose something like GoDaddy, which is another very popular domain name registrar if you so chose. So in the second method, I'll be buying the domain name from a second registrar, and then I will be configuring that domain in Cloudflare, and I'll be using that to set up a tunnel through which our n8n can then have a outside communication coming into it. Okay, so that is what we will be doing. So to set up your domain using Cloudflare, if you go to your left hand side panel, you can see a link called domains here. Click on it, and this will bring you into the domain management page. Here you have an option of either onboarding a domain, which we'll be seeing later, and which is what I alluded to when I said that I will show you how you can buy a domain from a different registrar and transfer it here. This is the option we'll be using then. But for now, what you need to do is you need to go to buy a domain, and you search for a domain name that you want. Let us search for something which will not be very common. I hope so. And let us just search for it. Give it any name you like. Okay. Now remember, the more common the name, the more popular it will be, the more expensive. So it's directly related to how much popular the domain name you want is. Now it gives me a couple of options there, which says, okay, I can have tigerroar.me for $16.31, or I can have dragonroar.org for $7.50. It's quite a good deal if you ask me, right? So if I wanted to buy dragonroar.org, and this is, remember, this is annual fee, so it's quite cheap, 750. It's quite cheap, and when it renews at $10.13, you're not even paying $1 per month, right? So quite cheap. So I just confirm this, and this brings me up to the payment page. Now this is where you will need to fill in your other details, personal details such as your name, your address, your card info, etc., etc. So just go through it, click confirm, buy the domain name, and come back. After you have made the payment, it will ask you, or it will give you a couple more options whereby it will ask you whether you want to scan for any DNS records. Since it's a brand new domain and you do not have any DNS records, it will say it has not found any DNS records, and it will create those DNS records on your behalf. And finally, it will ask you to choose a plan. So you can go for the free plan. For testing purposes, it's more than enough. If you wanted, say, added protection like DDoS or WAF, extra application load balancing, you could go for a paid service. But we do not require that unless and until you are doing this for a production environment in a corporate world. You actually do not need it, so just go for the free plan. And once you're done that, basically you have your domain set up within Cloudflare. I'm not going to buy dragonraw.org, but if any one of you is interested, you could go for this name. It's quite reasonable, the price. So once you have finalized on your domain, if you go into domains, you should be seeing your domain here, right? And you can see the plan that I have chosen for my domain, sonym.org, is the free plan. The next step obviously would be to create the tunnel, but I'm not going to do that as of yet, because what I want to show you is how you can create a domain using a different registrar and transfer that domain over to Cloudflare, and then we will create the tunnel. So the tunnel creation method is essentially the same, right? So I just want to show you that, and then we'll come back to this. Now, to find the cheapest domain you could possibly buy, just go to TLD-List.com. Again, I'll be linking all these URLs in the description below, so do check that out. And what you need to do here is you just need to search for what domain you want. Now let me search for CodeZaddy. By the way, I had already bought a domain named CodeZaddy, so I'll be using that for the demo. But I'll just show you how you can search for it using TLD and then buy it from the cheapest domain registrar. So I'll just verify that I'm not a robot. So once I've done with the robot verification, right, and I've entered CodeZaddy, it gives me different options on which is the cheapest registration here. So you can see I have the cheapest registration for codezaddy.com with just $5.87, which is quite cheap. So I have to use this promo code to buy that, right? And Cloudflare, it is 9.77. And if you wanted to transfer it into Spaceship, remember, this is not transferring from Spaceship. If you wanted to transfer domain into Spaceship, this is the price that you have there. Let me just scroll a bit to the right so you can see everything, all the options there. So you have a 3-year plan, which is quite reasonable. So if you think about it, you're just paying maybe less than $3 per year if you're using OVH Cloud. And you can see the popularity meter and whether it is DNS secure supported, right? So it supports the security extensions and the privacy meter. So let us go with a Spaceship here. So let's go with codezaddy.com, and I'll just click on the link to Spaceship. Be sure to copy the promo code because this is what you will need to paste on your checkout page when you make the payment to get this discount. So just click on this, and this will bring you to Spaceship, which is your third step. And this is where you need to create the account in Spaceship. So if you do not have it, just create one. You would need to probably give your credit card info, but they won't charge you anything unless and until you buy something from them. So just create a login. Okay, so if you already have a login, so it recognizes that I already have a login and a user account. If you do not have one, it will ask you to create an account. So let me log in. Once you have logged in, go to the all products tab that you see on the top here. Click on that and just do a domain name search. Now let me search for codezaddy.com and see what is the price shown here. Right. And you can see, since I'm from India, it actually brings up the prices in INR, but this is comparable to what was shown in TLD. I think it is almost the same, right? So let me just check that out again. Yeah, so it shows around $5.87. But remember, this is the price with the promo code discount, which you have not yet applied. So what you see here is the price without that promo code, right? So once you apply that promo code, it will come to exactly what is shown in TLD-List.com, which is around $5.87, which is much less than the price shown in Spaceship. So let me add this to the cart. Let me view the cart. I'll just move my video to the left hand side so you can see what is happening here. And it gives me some other options. Essentially, it's tempting me with some other options which I do not want. Okay, so I'll just say hide the suggestions for now and I'll just give continue. And now it gives me an option to add a promo code. So let me do that. So let me check that promo code. It is COM67. So let me add it. COM67. And hopefully this should bring down the price. There you go. So now it has come down again to 529.04. So this is exactly the price that was shown in TLDlist.com. Right. So hopefully now you understand how you can buy a domain at a very reasonable price. So just go ahead, do the checkout, do your bank verification, credit card verification, etc., and buy it. After a successful checkout, that is, you essentially have bought that domain, it is now under your name. Go into Launchpad here that you can see on the top. Just click on it and go to Domain Manager, or just search for Domain Manager, and you should see your domain right there. Now, this is not codezaddy.com, this is codezaddy.in, which I had bought earlier. As I mentioned, I have no intention of buying codezaddy.com. So that was just to demo to you on how you could buy a domain from Spaceship by applying some promo codes and buy it very cheap. But essentially, once you have bought it, okay, you should see your domain name here. If you click on it, right, it will open up a panel on your right hand side, and if you scroll down, right, you'll see something called name servers and DNS. If you click on it, it will show you the Spaceship name servers. So there will be two name servers, and this is what you would need to change or update in order to transfer the DNS over to Cloudflare, which we'll be seeing in a minute. So let me go back here. And another interesting thing that I want to show you here is, you scroll down a little bit more, what you would be seeing is something called advanced DNS. So if you click on that, right, yeah, it gives me a warning. That's fine. It shows me my propagation status is online because I had created it earlier. In your case, you might see it as something being in progress or propagating. So give it some time for it to be online. And To check the propagation status, you could just click on check servers and it would show you where all your spaceship name servers are hosted for your particular domain. So you can see I have few in South America, few in North, a couple in Africa, over Europe, I have a couple in India, right? And if I just click on that dot, it shows me where exactly in a particular country or continent the server is. So I can see this is Mumbai, the other one should be Bengaluru, and in Africa I have Johannesburg, in US I have Los Angeles. In your case, when you first do this, right, you might see some of them in blue color. So it essentially means it is being propagated. It has not yet fully been propagated. So that is in process. So your name servers are just being set up in the various servers across the world. So just keep an eye out there. Okay, and make sure that all your servers are in the propagated status, that it essentially it should be in green. Let me close this and let me go back to Cloudflare. And here what we would be doing is go to your domains page on your left hand side. This would bring up your domain management, and here click on onboard a domain. Remember, it is not buy a domain, which is what we had seen earlier. It is onboard a domain. Click that. Let us enter our new domain that we bought from Spaceship, codezaddy.in. Here, let us do a quick scan for the DNS records, which is recommended. So this should be there since it is something that is already there. Remember, if you're creating a domain for the first time using Cloudflare, this would be blank. There would be no DNS records. So you would need to go in and create those, which Cloudflare will help you with. But in our case, these DNS records would have been created by Spaceship. I can have an option of how I want to handle AI training bots. So I'll just give block on all pages, leave it on the default, and I'll say instruct AI bots traffic with, yeah, which is fine. I'll do a continue. And this is where it brings me up with the plans. Which plan do I want? So do I want a free plan, a pro plan, business plan, enterprise plan? As I have mentioned before earlier in this video, the free plan is more than enough for what we are trying to do. Or for personal use, this is more than enough. You can see it gives unmetered application layer, denial, double denial of service protection, IP-based rate limiting. So it gives WAF protection, and it detects and challenges common bots only. So it's only common bots. So more advanced bots it does not block, but probably you don't need this because you're not doing something on a production level. If you're doing something for a production level, go for a higher plan, okay, based on what you're trying to do here. Let me select the free plan here. Now on the next page, it brings up some information regarding your MX record, your A record, your AAA record, your CNAME record. But what do all this mean exactly? Let's find out. So all of these are essentially your standard DNS records. So A stands essentially it is a mapping of your domain name to your IP4 address, and AAA4As is the mapping of your domain name to your IP6 address. NS stands for the name server, which contains your DNS record. So for example, I bought sonym.org from Cloudflare, which is the domain registrar in this case. And CNAME essentially is a mapping from one name to the other. So if I see some examples, if I can show you some examples here. So this is an example of A-type record. So essentially n8n.sonym.org. We'll be setting up this later, not the record actually, but the tunnel here. So this is an example of an A record where it maps to a IP4 address. Similarly, the same record, if it's mapped to a IP6 address, which is what the IP world will move to very soon, because we are running out of IP4 address. It has a limitation, and you can see this IP6 it's much larger, right? So we will be moving to IP6, I presume, in 5-7 years time. It's already out there for some domains. It's quite a mouthful, by the way. And then you have your C name, where you map one name, right, to the other. So you have something like n8n being mapped to this whole URL here, and MX is nothing but your mail server for sonium.org. And then you have your NS, your actual name server, and then you have start of authority. So these are some very basic terminologies that I thought would be useful for you to know. Let us go back to Cloudflare. This is where we broke off for the tiniest piece of lecture here. But then if you scroll down, right, and just ignore all of this, we'll be setting up this later. So we'll just go continue to activation. And now it says update your name servers to activate Cloudflare. So we would need to update our name servers. Remember, our registrar is Spaceship, and we have to update these DNS records, right? These two, we need to copy and paste it on our Spaceship DNS record page that I showed earlier. So let's copy this, the first one, and let us go over to Spaceship. So within Spaceship, let me again go to my launchpad, to my domain manager, steps that we have seen before, guys. Click on our domain, which is codesari.in. On the right hand pane, click on name servers and DNS, expand it. And right there you have your Spaceship name servers, which we would be updating with our Cloudflare ones. So let us change this. We would be selecting custom name servers, so we're not going to use Spaceship name servers. So let us use custom name servers, and let us copy paste the first one. So I've copy pasted the first one. Let me go back and copy the second name server. So let me go here, let me copy the second one. Let me go back to Spaceship and let me paste it here. And I'll just say save name server settings. That's it. And you can see it says name servers updated for codesari.in. It says most name servers take anywhere between a couple of hours to 48 minutes. But in my experience, it probably will be up and running within 30 minutes. And this is where you can actually go in and check the propagation status. So let me just move my video to the left hand side. Let us check the propagations status. It should be interesting, right? So let me go to advanced DNS, as I showed before, and now you should be seeing this in propagation status. Okay, I got the warning Gs. Okay, check the servers, and you can see it's in blue, right? Earlier, if you remember, everything was in green because I had created the domain, the name servers in Spaceship earlier, and it had time to propagate and get set up properly. But now it is in propagating status, so it's in blue. It is yet to be propagated. Now this will take some time. So what I'll do is I'll pause the video here and I will resume it once everything has been propagated, and hopefully we should be seeing everything in the green status, which is in the propagated status, and we'll take it from there. Before I pause the video, there's actually one more step we need to complete in Cloudflare. So you need to click the continue button. And if you click the continue button, what you will see here is the last step, right? So essentially says, this is what we did, update your name servers to activate Cloudflare. But if you scroll down, it would say Cloudflare will periodically check for name server updates. So right now, if you look at your name server codesari.in, it says the domain codesari.in, it says it has invalid name servers because your name servers are still being propagated. It has not yet reached that green status that we saw there. So once it reaches that green status, this will be a valid name server, and this will automatically change. If you wanted, you could just keep on checking it manually, but it does not make any sense. So let me pause the video and we'll resume after that, after everything has been propagated. Though Spaceship notified that it would take anywhere between 24 to 48 hours for our servers to get propagated properly, it took less than 45 minutes because I did take a break for 45 minutes, and when I came back, everything was in green status. So I'm guessing it takes anywhere between 20 to 45 minutes, even though the official notification says it might take up to 48 hours. So we are good to go. Now let us check the DNS records. As you can see, the name servers are those of Cloudflare, the ones that we had updated. It is not the ones that belong to Spaceship. So everything looks okay here and it is online. Now let us check our Cloudflare and see what is happening there. Right, in Cloudflare, now the status is active. Before that, it used to be inactive namespace. So now it seems to be okay. So if you scroll down, rather if you look at the DNS records here, let's just check the DNS records. Yes, everything seems to be okay. So we have our name servers from Spaceship in the content here. You can see, right? And the Cloudflare name servers are the ones that we configured within Spaceship. So this looks okay. Let us now move on to the next step, which is how do we create a tunnel. So let me go back to the account's main home page here. And you can see I have two domains, right? The ones that I created just recently and the older one, sonym.org. So this is an older one. We would be configuring a tunnel using the new one, codezaddy.in. Let's see how we can do that. Let me move my video to the right hand corner so you can see what I'm doing. So on your left hand side of your home page in Cloudflare, you would need to go to Zero Trust. Click on that. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, it will probably ask you for a team name. Since I've already created this, since I'm already using it now, it does not ask me because I've already created my team name. You can give any name you want. Okay, so essentially it will be treated as a subdomain. And if you just want to check out your team name, right? So all you need to do is if you just scroll down on your left hand side panel, and if you go to settings, right there you will have a tab named team name, and if you click on it you can see the team name. Now in this case my team name is Sony MC, and this is what it says about what a team name is used for, right? So it is used to create a unique subdomain, and this is how users can enroll devices with warp client. Now warp client is something that's applicable only for Linux distros, and since we are not on a Linux system, I'm not going into how we can do that, but just read through the documentation there. Now let us see how we can create the tunnel. Now to create a tunnel, click on the networks link that you can see on the left hand side. Remember, I am within the Zero Trust configuration panel, so just let me show you that. So if I go back to my main dashboard, right, from here go to Zero Trust. So it will be available in the recent, since I have taken it quite a few times, but this is where you can usually find it under Protect and Connect. So go to Zero Trust, and within that go to Networks, expand on the drop down and click on Connectors. This will bring you to the home page of your connectors where you can see all the routes that you have already configured. Now I have already configured one route for n8n using my previous domain. Let us see how we can do it for a new one. Okay, so all you need to now do is click on plus symbol which says create a tunnel. You can see two options. One is Cloudflare, the other is the Warp connector, which is the beta version, which is for Linux distros only. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of Warp connector. We'll stick with Cloudflare. Okay? So just select Cloudflare and give a name to your tunnel. So I will just give this n8n demo, and I'll just say save tunnel. And you can see my tunnel has been created successfully. Now, for our next step, what we would need to do is we would need to install the Cloudflare client, tunnel client agent on our system. Let me show you what I mean. So going back to the diagram which I shared towards the beginning of this video, within our local host, we have this Cloudflare tunnel service, which should be installed. Only if this is available would our Cloudflare proxy be able to tunnel into our system. So it uses this service agent there. And this is what we now have to install. It gives you an option of choosing your operating system. So if you're on a Windows, choose Windows, Mac, and then you have various Linux distros, and then you also have a Docker environment. If you wanted that, choose your architecture bit, and by default, Cloudflare is clever enough to understand my system configuration, so it gives me this option of directly clicking this download link here, right, from github.com, which shows it as Windows AMD 64. So I am on an AMD machine and it is 64-bit. So I click on it and download it. That's what I've done. Will not take much. It's a small download of 19 MB. Once you have downloaded it, just click on the executable, just double click it and install it in your system. So let us continue after I have installed this client. So I have installed the client, and then I just follow the steps stated here. So it says open the command prompt as an administrator and run the following command. So this has a token, and this token is unique. So once you have installed your Cloudflare tunnel agent on your system, just run this command using an elevated prompt. So I'll just copy this and let me run that command. So open my power as an admin and copy paste that command with the token. Now I have blotted out the token due to security concerns, but essentially this is the command. If you just press enter, it would install the agent on your system. So let's do that and let's come back. After running the command, come back to the connectors page here and make sure your new tunnel, which in our case is n8n underscore demo, is with the healthy status here, right here. And by the way, I had to uninstall my previous tunnel because I cannot have two tunnels on the same machine. It doesn't make any sense here. Now let us configure our tunnel for our n8n locally hosted application. So this is what this session was all about, how you can expose n8n using a Cloudflare tunnel to the outside world or to the internet. Let's see how we can do that. For that, what I'll do is let me just move my video up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. So with the new tunnel that we have created, n8n underscore demo, on the right hand most side, you can see three dots there. Okay, so this is the configuration icon. Just click on that and click on configure. And this will bring us the configuration page. So we had already installed the agent and such things. From here, go to the published application routes tab, right? The last tab here. And this is where you publish your app. So click on the add a published application route button. And now we'll configure our local n8n instance. So let us make sure our local instance is up and running. And there you go. So our localhost 5678 is up and running. So our n8n instance is healthy. Now let us configure it. So right here, we would just give whatever name you want. So it makes sense since we are configuring our n8n instance. I'll just name it as n8n instance, and this is where you select your domain. So in my case, I have two domains here. I'll select codezaddy.in, the one that we just created. Leave the path optional. If you wanted, you could give what you wanted there, but let's leave it blank. The service type is HTTP since it's a local instance, and this is the URL of our local instance, right? Local host colon 5678. So this is where our local n8n instance is up and running. And I just do a save. And it says successfully saved DNS record. Now this is the new route where our application will essentially now be available. So if I just click on this one, okay, and I just click open, this should bring me to the sign in page, and there you go. So let me just sign in, and just to prove to you that this is mapped to my local instance. I'm signed in, and now you can see I am on n8n.codezaddy.in. Right? This is my route through which it points to my local instance, and this is exactly the same as my local instance. So whatever I do here will get reflected in my local instance. Let me just open that also for you. So it is right here, right? So you can see my localhost 5678, the workflows. It is essentially the same here as well. Right? n8n.codezaddy.in, exactly the same. And we have successfully published our locally hosted n8n instance to Cloudflare. Though we are nearly done, there's a bit more of configuration we need to do to configure webhooks. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. So I am on my Cloudflare tunnel in, which points to my local instance here, right? As you can see, and just let me create a workflow, and let me create a webhook, right? And immediately you can see the webhook URL still points to my local instance. Now this might become a problem when you try to configure your external apps with this URL. So essentially this needs to point to the n8n.codezaddy.in URL, the Cloudflare tunnel URL. And the way we do it is we have to configure our environment variables to set this up. Let me show you how to do that. So I terminated my local instance there. And what I need to do is I need to add a couple of environment variables which will specify the webhook URL and the protocol, right, which is now HTTPS. So I would say the webhook URL is https colon slash slash n8n.codezaddy.in slash. This is my Cloudflare tunnel URL. And I'd also specify the protocol HTTPS. And the way you can do it is you just need to specify $env colon webhook underscore URL, specify your Cloudflare URL there, and then colon again $env colon n8n underscore protocol equal to HTTPS within double quotes, everything within double quotes. And that is how you specify your environment variables here, so that the webhook URL now would point or would actually show as the Cloudflare URL. So let me start this and let us see how that works. So it's up and running. Let me press O. So it opens up the Cloudflare instance here. And I'm back on my main page. Let me create a workflow. And let me do the same thing. Let me create a webhook. And there you go. Now we can see that our webhook URL is indeed not pointing to the Cloudflare URL here, n8n.codezaddy.in. codesadi.in. Brilliant. Now, if you're using Docker Compose to spin up your local native instance, what you can do is you just need to go to your environment section of your n8n service configuration, and within that just specify those two environment variables that I've just mentioned, which is webhook underscore URL equal to specify your URL for Cloudflare, and for the n8n underscore protocol just specify HTTPS. I'll be sharing this Docker Compose in the video description link below, so just check that out. Now, a very normal doubt that might pop up in somebody's head is that how do you publish multiple applications to the same tunnel, right? Since you're constrained using just one tunnel in your system, can you publish more than one app? The answer is absolutely yes. So go to your tunnels, okay? So, right, so this is your tunnel, and click on the configuration page here, configure. Go to the published application routes tab, right? The same thing that we did for publishing the n8n local instance there. And you just need to add a new app. So you just need to publish a new application route where you can specify the subdomain that you want, the domain. You can select the domain and then the type of service, the port on which your local app is exposed. And that's it. We are at the fag end of our video. Now, before we go, I would like to point out a minor security concern that exists with using Cloudflare tunnels. Now, Cloudflare is supposed to be top of the chain, security master of encrypting data and exposing your services securely. But while using tunnels, even Cloudflare has a problem. So assume this is your app, your external app that you want to talk to your locally hosted instance. It can be native, it can be anything, right? And you have configured a Cloudflare tunnel. So everything is hunky-dory till this point. But what you should understand is that the communication between your app and the Cloudflare proxied, right? That is encrypted. So that is in HTTPS. But that data will be decrypted within Cloudflare. Only then can it then transmit the data through the tunnel to your Cloudflare service agent, tunnel service agent, through which your local app will then pick it up. Yeah. And this is where the security concern lies. Cloudflare decrypting your data. So this can contain sensitive information, personal information. It depends on what type of data you send to Cloudflare. So keep this in mind. And if you're working in an IT corporate environment where data is sensitive, you might need to think again before you send data in this manner. So this is something I just wanted to put it out there. Thought it would be useful information. I really hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something from it. So till we meet again, adios.